Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Did you watch that Wizards-Kings Summer League game yesterday?
No, I watched the 47th President of the United States speak last night.
Which was longer, the game or the speech?
The speech was pretty long. They warned me though it would be long. He doesn't do shorts. I watched that one last night. That's what I there's not a lot of sports going on these days. So,
I was at
picks back up this weekend. We get baseball back.
You'd be surprised at this actually. I almost took a picture of it for you. I was at Aslan Beer Garden last night and people were actually facing the TV watching the Kings Wizards Summer League game. Like there was a not like palpable audience, but more than one person.
Like really watching it, or it was just on?
No, like chairs turned around towards it, watching it.
Let's see if Sarr can bounce back.
Right, which I was like, okay, I could think of worse things than actually enjoying the 80-degree weather last night and just throwing the Summer League on. So I was shocked at that. Ted would have loved it. Oh,
I knew it. You're taking over the city.
Then I'll go to Black Cat across the street.
Whiz kids, let's go. Who's coming with me to see Olivia tomorrow night in my house?
He won't be there.
You don't think?
No chance.
Why not?
Zach might be there.
It's brutal out here. Nah. It's brutal out here. Yeah.
That might be your new promo. Need to refresh all that. So
we do actually. Talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Talk about that next week. Things are changing, but good for the better. You'll see. All good. No, just spoiler alert. Things are going to change soon. But I'm not going anywhere. Things are changing.
What a tease over there.
Yeah, what a tease. So last weekend before the grind begins, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I got Monday too because they don't do anything Monday, but Tuesday starts training camp.
Right.
Very excited.
What's the you got to lay it out for me because you know it more than I do. Is it like report Tuesday and then practice starts Wednesday?
No, Tuesday's first.
Tuesday's first practice.
Yeah, I think
okay.
report is 22nd.
Monday?
Yeah, the rookies should be there. They're not telling anybody, but they should be there. 22nd, 23rd should be the first practice. If I have it right, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
23rd's first practice. So here we go, Jim.
Did they give you your yearly hat or yearly piece of gear yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Hopefully on Tuesday.
It's always my favorite thing because you come in with it on. Like, they gave you your gear today.
Yeah. What shirts am I going to get? What hats am I going to get? What am I going to get? I'm excited.
Are you good? I actually, we haven't discussed this on the air yet. I sent you the link to get your Joe Gibbs hat, your Script R hat. You're not going to wear that there,
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
But I think that might get a few cheers.
Yeah. You'd also get a probably slap on the wrist there on like Quinn.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just an R, guys. That's all it is. It's just an R.
You gonna wear the Osaka hat?
Callow sent me a link to an eBay hat he found that is an Osaka.
Just Osaka. There's no Redskins logo.
No.
Who do they play again? Over
the
there?
49ers.
Yeah. But there's no. That's what I love. There's no team logos. It just says Osaka in the NFL logo.
It's the year they went and played there. And I'm like, how are you not buying that?
It's a used hat.
You're not gonna wear it.
I want to, but
I said that one goes on a shelf. I mean, like that's just
with the picture of Spurrier.
Picture of Spurrier, and I want like underneath a 5-11 not too good, but I want 5-11 not too good written in Japanese. I think it would be incredible.
I think you should actually get like a little roulette wheel. When you hit a button, it comes up with a random Spurrier quote.
Yeah.
5-11, not too good.
Pitch it around.
Not in jail, is he?
Not in jail, is he?
We're not the worst in the league.
Yeah. Bruce Smith, he's a guy on the team.
Yeah.
Broke the sack record. He's a guy on the team.
Was he fun and gun?
Fun and gun.
Yeah, fun and gun.
Yeah. Pitch it around was one of my favorites because that Osaka game was when the Japanese media did an interview with him and Mariucci. And he said, we're just going to, pitch it around and all that stuff. And that didn't translate. And the translators said, I guess, verbatim what he said. And all the Japanese reporters put their head up and they looked at each other like, what does that mean? And then the translator said something else and they all laughed.
Oh.
And so I don't know what they said, but it feels like it's kind of like we don't know what this guy's talking about.
Well, I mean,
and then they thought that was funny.
It's not far off. I mean,
right.
What was the other one? Was it where he Solly used to use it? It was like he was talking, I think, about Brandon Noble, and he went Noble. Do you remember that one?
No.
Okay, that was when Solly had
saved
in the old system. That's 15 times over now.
The other one there, which I loved, was after the game. He did an interview in the locker room.
Yes.
And then we were all going to go jump on a plane and leave. So he did an interview, and he was done with the Japanese reporters, at this point, and he puts his hands up and he goes, "American people," and he goes, "American people."
My God.
I want to speak English to you, and I don't want to, I just want to do this, get it over with, and get on the plane.
Enough already.
Yeah, enough already. Yeah, that was one of my favorite all-time moments, was getting to go to that. That was incredible.
Well, I sent it to you.
It was incredible.
When
I don't know how you're not buying it and putting it on a shelf.
someone's gonna buy it now.
I mean, if you you want to gift that to me, I'll put it on my Zoom shelf if you want. That'll be part of the backdrop.
When we were cleaning out the old 980 studios when we were cleaning out from Rockville, there was just a pile of stuff because Andy's office got cleaned out and Zabe's office was getting cleaned out and Lynn's and everybody's, and there was just piles of junk. But one of the things I did swipe was someone had an Osaka 2002 wristband. I don't know where it came from, but I was like, this isn't getting thrown out. I'm taking this one.
I have a picture from that up.
You used to have that. Didn't you have it in your office?
It's still in my office. It's a picture of me interviewing Chris Samuels on the field, because in the background you can see some Japanese lettering. There's an Osaka patch on his chest, and I have long hair.
You're right. Yes.
So it's an incredible picture. It's incredible picture. All right, let's get set for training camp, which begins next week. We'll have another day to deal with this on Monday, obviously. Let's set the scene. But Terry McLaurin did an event today down in Northeast. He did an event called Terry's Locker.
Yep.
And I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's to raise money, I think. And I probably should look up exactly what it was for. But he did an event today, and it was a give-back charitable event at one of the high schools, I think McKinley, if I remember right, down in Northeast D.C., And but as you might imagine, unlike Jordan Love, where they said don't ask him questions about football at his thing, they did ask him, and of course Terry will oblige. And also Terry is, not under scrutiny of what's going to happen next, where Jordan Love was. Anyway, so he was asked about camp, and this was his answer.
How important is chemistry over these next couple of days to build with some of the new teammates and additions, especially the quarterback?
100%. I think it's camp is the time you start to do that, and I think it's different from OTAs because it's a everyday process. You know what I mean? We're just going to start putting pads on. Kind of, the wheat starts to separate from the shaft a little bit. You get to start to see the grind of camp, and that's the fun part to me. That's where the team building. You see guys starting to get after each other a little bit. The competitiveness juices start flowing, and I'm really excited to do that. And I've been in the last few days, and the rookies have already got started. So, it's good to see all of them in there, and Jaden especially. I think he's been working really hard this offseason to bring his best version of himself, and we've had conversations about what he wants to do this year and how he wants to just be the best quarterback he could be for us to help us get to the playoffs and reach our goals for this season. So all the intangibles are there for him. I think it's just a matter of us helping support him, because this is going to be a transition for him. He is a rookie quarterback. There's going to be growing pains, but to know he has a group of guys around him who could take that load off and he could just be himself, you can start seeing his personality continue to show, and I think he's going to grow into one of our top leaders this year.
Okay, so follow-up question I'll have for Terry on Tuesday, when hopefully he speaks to us, or whenever I get a chance to speak to him. You just mentioned your team has goals. What are they?
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to hear that actually from them.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to win the Super Bowl. I get it, but he's a realist, and so I want to hear, what are the goals in year one with a rookie quarterback, and at his stage of his career, what are his goals at this point?
Yeah.
And how does he see all this? Because he's one of the very few prominent carryovers of this whole thing. And I did like when he said the wheat's going to be separate from the chaff, because it is very different. There are a ton of new people, and there are, in some cases, not a lot of certainties at certain positions. Like John and Duran are starting on the defensive line. He's the number one receiver. Name the other stuff that's obvious.
Yep.
Outside of, they signed Biotish, he's going to start at center. But even like Allegretti, is he really starting at left guard? I think he is, but I don't know. Wiley and Cosme, I think, are the right side, but there might be some competition there. Everything else is very open for interpretation. And while that's really exciting and it's all really new, and in minicamp you get to do all these different things and try all these different people, I like how he put it. We're going to find out who's going to step up.
That's right.
And this is what's really, I think, fascinating about this team and this camp is, and I was talking to somebody this morning for an interview I was doing, and I said, this is the first time I can remember, it's sports, so a lot of change happens. And I've been through a million different changes in covering and being around this team through the years. but I've never felt like this where I literally don't have much of an idea of what I'm about to get.
I'd say the RG3 year. I'd say the RG3 year was
yeah, I
close,
guess.
but
Because of him.
Right.
Because of him and because if you get a quarterback with that kind of talent level, it can change everything, which is happening here too. But think about in this one, everything else changed around
Correct.
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
And so it's completely different.
It's also, I've said this time and time again as well.
Because that wasn't Shanahan's first year, right? That was Shanahan's
second year, yeah.
Yeah, because he had Grossman.
Third year.
He had Grossman, right?
He had
then
McNabb, then Grossman
right.
back here.
So so everything the system, quote unquote, was in place.
Yeah.
They just got what they hoped was a higher level talent at quarterback. And yes, that changes everything, but you knew what was going on around it. Everything's new.
Yeah.
And they've been really, really hidden about I don't know what their offense is going to look like. I don't know what their defense is going to look like. This is completely, utterly new. And so this is the first time I've really felt this way where I'm learning along with all of you in real time because I really don't know what to expect this year.
I would say this too, and I like I said, I've said this time and time again this offseason. With the RG3 stuff, it was unknown and we didn't hear anything, but it was almost a little too quiet. We didn't hear about Robert himself. Whereas the juxtaposition between him and Jaden, it's been unprompted, this guy is such a hard worker. He's the first in the room. You have John Allen saying he's beating me to the facility every day. You have Luke McCaffrey saying I'm there with him at 5 a.m. in the bubble. That's
smart move, Luke. By the way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, if you want to lock in that third wide receiver role, that's how you do it.
Become that guy's best friend.
Yes. But what I'm getting at there is we never heard that with any quarterback that's ever been drafted here in the first round. And that's, I think, what you're talking about with the unknown, though, combined with that unprompted, this guy's working his ass off.
That's right.
He's going to actually get a little bit of a leash here because everyone knows, okay, we know it's coming with this guy, even if it's a little bumpy at the beginning.
But I thought what was really interesting through minicamp, and I wanted to take a step back because one day Forbes wasn't starting, and then they're like, well, that means something. And I'm like, well, I don't think it does. And then there were other days where I'm like, Bobby Wagner's going to play a ton here, obviously.
Yep.
But there were days where they were running in and out all these different linebacking combinations. I think they were just testing people out in a lot of different ways. Well, what McLaurin is saying is what I'm expecting now. It's go time now.
Yeah, right.
So all of that, I guess, just observation that I think the coaching staff did with a very, very new roster is going to manifest itself. And these first couple of weeks are going to be really interesting to see who's doing what, where, and how quickly that may change and how competitive it's going to be at certain spots. Because there's already position groups where I look at and I go, corner is a total free-for-all.
Right. Yep.
I don't know who's going to start. And I know Joe Witt's saying things like, don't at me with starters, but there is somebody on day one who has to cover Mike Evans.
Right.
So who's that going to be?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Right? Somebody we're not going to, it's not spin the wheel, you get to cover Mike Evans. Somebody's
Some
going
Jay Gruden stuff there.
Right.
Some
Somebody's going to have to do that. What does the linebacker package look like?
Yeah.
Are Allen and Payne traditionally where they typically are, or considering Johnny Newton isn't quite ready to go and we don't know who the left rush end is, do they move a little to the outside here and there, especially because Payne showed it last year.
Yeah.
So where's Chin positioned? He's going to play a lot, but where?
Buffalo nickel.
No. Single high safety.
Position flex.
I've gotten a sense that he's kind of quarterbacking things back there, but maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Is he a single high safety? Is he a linebacker? Is he both? I don't know what to expect. How much are we going to see of B-Rob and Eckler? What roles do they have? They're both going to play prominent ones. I picture Robinson gets a lot of the early, series, and on third down, Eckler runs in there, and maybe he takes a series. That's what I picture, but maybe not.
Yeah, right.
Does Eckler line up in the slot sometimes? Because he could. Mm-hmm. Could B-Rob and Eckler be on the field at the same time?
Sure.
It's very possible, right? Very possible. Where does McCaffrey fit in? Where's Sinnott fit in? How much is Ertz going to play?
I was going to say the tight
How many
end,
two tight ends do we have?
The tight end room is actually the one that I think that people aren't talking enough about it. That's going to be a battle. I think Ertz is here because he's a pro, but I also think they're going, he's a pro, but we hope one of you guys beat him out, whether it's in training camp or halfway through the season.
The object is Sinnott and gets moved around and plays a
Right.
lot. And I've heard things about him like he could be Juszczyk, he could be a
Yes.
tight end, he
Right.
could be a lot of different things for them.
Peters, I think, was on record by saying that he reminds him of Juszczyk and Kittle. And he meant
Yes.
he meant that in like the nicest way possible, like not
2 Ring of Fame players,
correct,
but whatever.
But he was like his attitude and the way he plays. That's what he reminded him of.
Yes.
He's not trying to say he's going to be a top 5 tight end.
So, this is what's really, it's exciting to me. It's also, I want to be measured about it because the truth is when you go into a season and there's so many unknowns, the idea that it's just going to click, I think is being a little too optimistic.
Right.
So I'm hoping, and I want to see, I think these first, sometimes in the past, the first week or so is really just it's where everybody's happy to be back and it's exciting to be part of it, but they can't hit each other because of collective bargaining agreement. But you kind of already know what's set in place.
Yeah.
And you know, last year, Bieniemy's offense was readily apparent in the spring, so it wasn't a big surprise when the summer started. I think we're going to finally see Kingsbury's offense. I don't know when, but at some point. How do these pieces fit in? I don't know. Are the preseason games going to give us an indication of what they are? I don't think so.
Right.
I really don't. This is going to be a really interesting month and a half. And it's exciting because I've rarely been in this position where I go, I really literally don't know what we're about to get at all.
Yep.
Across the board, I don't know what we're going to get. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, I think with the mixture of all the veterans and the rookie class, and I think this is the highest expectation rookie class in a couple of years because I think people did throw out Ron's drafts pretty fast there. Once we realized he was drafting for need and, not to say that the rankings are everything, but we found out real quick Ron was taking the players that he liked instead of the best players available. And it was kind of like there was no faith in the draft classes the last couple of years. Whereas this time around, you bring in Aura, and now we think every draft pick is the next coming of whoever.
Right. And that's what you need to be fair about, too.
Correct.
I love the Sandersville pick.
Yes.
I think he's a day one starter. He may not be. We don't know that.
Right, exactly.
I am hopeful about the Sinnott pick. I know how they're viewing him, but he may be waiting in line behind Hurts for a little while. Maybe. I don't know. How does Eckler really fit in? It's not like they're not going to use him. They're going to use him extensively, but how?
Yep.
Is he a primary running back at times? Is he really just a third down back? Could they slot receiver him a little bit? Is he a change of pace? And then where does Robinson fit in with that? Is he a primary typical between the tackles runner? Are they running an offense like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. And that's what's exciting about it because it's all new. And, we all have these visions of maybe we're Houston. And that's where I would ask Terry, I'd go back to the goals. What are the goals?
Yeah, right.
Do you want to surprise people? Because no one thinks you're going to have a good record.
Right. You want to win a playoff game. Yeah.
Do you want to go to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Are you really considering, can you win the division? Are you going to put out there that we have these lofty goals? We think we're really good and we might contend. And I think most people would look at that and go, I think that's a little ahead of schedule, but I don't want to stop you from believing that. But I'd like to hear what their goals are. And McLaurin is extremely realistic. So when he just threw that out there, I'm like, you know what? I'd like to hear what the team goals are. And on day one, when Quinn does his first press conference, I hope someone asks him, what are your goals for the season? Because I'd like to hear just from their standpoint, how are they viewing this? Because most coaches don't set themselves up to fail. I don't expect him to go, we're going to go 17-0 and win the Super Bowl. I'd like to hear what his true, honest expectations are. What is a successful season to him? Outside of you don't know what's going to happen because of injuries and all those types of things. But what are your realistic goals for this year? Because I want to hear how he puts it and phrases it. And what does he think? And then I'd like to hear from some of the players. What do you think? And then we're going to get to this point that McLaurin was talking about, which is we are Wild West in terms of open positions and competition.
Yep.
And I like that he said wheat from the chaff because he's like, everybody got their chance in minicamp. You're going to get your chance here early, but now you better make it count.
That's right.
Because we're going to make decisions. Mm-hmm. This is when we make decisions.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm interested to see what those decisions are outside of the very few obvious ones. Terry McLaurin's our number one receiver, period. John Allen and Deron Payne are going to play a ton and be our numbers 1 and 2 defensive tackles. Dorrance Armstrong is the starting right defensive end. Bobby Wagner's going to play a lot, but at his age, I don't know. You see more Luvu of him? Probably.
Maybe.
Will they be on the field together at the same time? Probably. Will there be times where Luvu takes his spot? Probably. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really hard to know. So I'm excited about Tuesday and what's to come, and let's learn along the way and see what they are. I expect it to be up and down.
Yeah, of course.
In the scoreboard.
Right.
Because how often does it happen that this, but last year, Houston came on, got a quarterback. He's ahead of schedule. New coach came in. New coach connected with the players immediately. Very young team, made a lot of changes. I think what's different is, to be fair to Washington, and this is why I don't love this comparison, Houston was in a division where Indianapolis was resetting, Tennessee was resetting. It really was, if they were ahead of schedule, a two-team race.
That's right. Yeah.
And all they needed was one of them to have an average to below average season, and they could surprise some people. I don't think we're in that right now. I think we're in a division where we have two teams that are very, very, on paper, very, very, very good. And in the case of the Eagles, stacked. And I have a hard time buying that they're going to be bad enough for us to catch them. But they did unravel, and if they do it again, then maybe this opening happens again.
What I will say on that, and I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks too, was, what are the takeaways from each regime? And one of them, though, I will give Ron Rivera credit for is the division games feel like they're back for us.
Yeah.
Like for years there with Gruden, it just felt like another week, especially that last year where they only won 2 or 3 games, whatever the record was. Last year was funny. Like in retrospect and in hindsight, they played the Eagles tough, both of those games.
They did it a few years in a row.
But for last year,
we were one of the tough outs for them and knocked them off in high-profile spots.
But last year specifically, when the team was basically tapping out from the beginning, they still played them tough. And that's what I think was actually even more impressive in hindsight.
There's a big part of me that wonders if they went for 2 on that Philly game where they tied on the last play of the game. Dotson caught the touchdown. They tied it. He had said he would go for 2 in that situation.
Right.
They didn't.
And they didn't.
I think win or loss, a ballsy decision like that, I think might have carried over for them. Even if it failed.
Yeah,
I think it might have carried over. And if they won, it might have galvanized everybody to hang in there a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. But when they kicked the extra point.
And then they have to hold on.
Went to overtime. Got a bad call.
Yeah.
Like, remember, McLaurin stepped on that guy's arm and ended up out of bounds, and they ended up punting, and then the Eagles went down the field and scored. The wind was, just the air was taken out of the room.
Yep.
Because they played their ass off and lost.
Yes, right.
And that happens against good teams. And at that point, remember, it's early in the season. The Eagles had not gone sideways yet.
Correct. But at the same time, we had already gotten the early signs of this isn't going to work out.
Right.
We didn't know it at the time, but like
the previous week was Buffalo, and we're like, uh-oh.
When McLaurin is saying we need to figure out who we are, we're kind of like, you don't say that normally. You don't say that ever, and you're saying it 3 weeks into the season.
They rallied it together.
Yeah.
They got it together. They played one of the best teams, the team that was off the Super Bowl, a team they played really tough and nearly beat them for a second year in a row when they were undefeated on their home field.
Right.
Almost did it.
And so what I'm getting at is this iteration of this team it finally feels like they actually at times now will say it's division week. We don't care what's going on. We're going to play them really tough, which wasn't the case before. It felt like Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants games were just every other opponent there for a long time. Now it feels a little more special. And that's what I'm getting at here with this new coaching staff is because they're better off and they seem to have their you-know-what together, that maybe they pop off on those division games a little bit more here where maybe the Giants don't sweep us for once when we know we're the better team than them.
That one needs to change. Like, the good teams beat the bad teams regularly.
Correct.
And yes, I'll hear everybody out with, like, in the division, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But I don't know why it's happening constantly.
Cutlets shouldn't be beating you at home.
No.
No, it shouldn't be close.
No, that should be a walkover. Like, those are the gimmies when that stuff happens. Those should be, like, when you got a team that's average to bad and they have bad breaks and they have a quarterback off the streets whose lone sponsorship is some Italian sub shop in Trenton, New Jersey. Sorry, guys. And you're at home. Come on.
It ain't even Trenton, bro. It's some other small town in Jersey.
Perth Amboy. So they need, like, you need to win those games. And, I do think, what'll be good is with the connections with Dallas, not like the Dallas game isn't already big enough, but like that's going to be back.
Yes.
And, I hope there is a carryover of that feel. I mean, it's hard because the locker room changed a lot, but like this team played the Eagles hard.
Yep.
And the Eagles have been a standard bearer in our division and in the NFC for the last 5 years. And so, it's been nice that rivalry is really kind of back, and I hope that carries over here a little bit, but we'll see what happens. All right. Speaking of McLaurin, let me take a break because there is Ben Standig has some ideas for how to acquire Brandon Aiyuk that involves him, and we'll talk about that next. Brad Washington Show, ESPN 630 at Sports Capital. Just got the training camp schedule from the team. They're practicing very early. Very early. And it has been, not today, but it's been a steam bath around here. So
I was just going to tell you, as somebody that is in the midst of marathon training, 9 o'clock is actually like too late. Like it's already going to be.
Oh, that's right. When are you
too
getting
hot.
out? Like sunrise, you're out?
I mean, I have to be hitting the pavement by 8:30, or it exponentially gets up every 10, 15 minutes. It's hard.
How does that cut into your time to play CFB 25?
Oh, so today was rest day. I was good. I woke up, started the download, then started brewing my coffee, and by the time my coffee was done with, it was up there.
All right.
So I played a couple games.
Well, I got it for Archer last night. We
Yeah.
did the and it downloaded, which I want to say this to EA Sports. A lot of kids play this game. Making it available at midnight, guys.
Well,
That was like the 2:02 announcement of the Wizards.
Yeah, so
2
stupid.
a.m.
So stupid, yeah.
2 a.m. You want me to stay up for an announcement review at 2 a.m.? And I was a little mad at EA because I'm like, my kid's gonna want to play this. Now I got to keep him up till midnight to let him play it for 20 minutes.
I got two-pronged answer for you. One, if you had that exclusive deal, you got it at 4 o'clock on Monday, like 4 o'clock
I
ET.
understand.
So
but
you got it in
I
the
wasn't
afternoon.
paying the extra 30.
Two.
Like he can wait a few days.
Two,
Right.
back in my day, I couldn't download games digitally, and you had to go wait in line at old EB
yeah.
Games and get the disc at midnight and then
Yeah.
drive back home and get it, or you had to get it the next day. So I am telling you, back in my
Yeah,
day, it was
that-
even harder.
See, you're getting old now.
I-
You have
yeah,
you have
duh.
a back in my day.
Yes,
You
correct.
walked in the snow both ways to school. You're heading there. I was just like, I mean, how about this then? Can we just do it 8 a.m. the next day? Something like that,
No.
so that my kid doesn't stay up till mid. Like a
course
lot
not.
of your audience is young people, guys.
So what I will say is this, actually.
You're killing me as a parent here because I'm not going to tell him that he can't have it when it starts.
What I will say is this: I think they need to take a hint from the TV shows now. Like a lot of times now, I think Disney Plus started doing this. You can get it at 9 p.m. because on the West Coast you get it at 9 p.m. because it's just unlocked.
Right.
So what they started to do
That would
was
have been much better.
So I think EA, not just EA, but the video game marketplace in general, just needs to say if you buy it digitally, you get it those 3 hours
Yes.
early. And if you want to go get the physical copy, you just got to go get it the next day.
Right, but you did the if you buy it on Monday, it costs this, but you get it 4 days in advance.
Yep,
so it's
right.
not like you know.
Well, that was the funniest part. I log into Xbox this morning, and that edition was down to $80
Oh,
because it comes with all this other stuff.
Right,
and I was
right,
like,
right.
yeah, of course it's on sale now. Nobody wants it anymore.
I bought the
So-
regular,
Yeah, so did
and
I.
I got a
Yeah.
little hookup for Madden, so I didn't buy the dual thing.
Right.
They're going to send me the code at some point.
Sure.
You know,
I don't
special.
I don't
So,
play
yeah.
Madden, so I mean,
No?
Madden's garbage to me. I mean,
Oh, okay.
No, well, once again, back in my day, they used to reset it every year. It would be like a new engine, a new game, and then they just started cookie cutting it every year. So,
All right.
anyways, sorry.
Let's see. I teased Ben Standig and The Athletic wrote a piece about Brandon Aiyuk has asked for a trade. It doesn't look like the 49ers are going to accommodate it. However, if they were willing to listen, they put out scenarios, right?
Scenarios,
And
yes.
we're one of them because, as you know, to Brandon Aiyuk, Washington is thirst trap. So he wants to come here. And so they did put out a scenario. I'll get to that one last. Here are the other ones they put out there that like they thought made sense to them. Atlanta, who really should probably go all in, right? Because they brought in Kirk Cousins and Penix. And they have Bijan and they got Drake London, and they could use a standout number 2, number 1 receiver. He'd be number 1 probably there walking in the door. And so they're offering up Zach Harrison, who's a defensive end, and a first-round pick for Aiyuk. And I got to tell you, if that got put in front of the 49ers, I'd have to think about
Correct.
that.
Yep.
Because they want a first. You get it. And you get defensive help on the other side of Bosa.
Yep. You also don't know how the Falcons could.
Remember, Eric Armstead's gone,
Right.
so they're replacing him this year.
The other thing is I always like to look at these when a first-round pick is thrown at you. The potential for the Falcons to go sideways in that division doesn't feel high, but you never know with them.
You never know.
So that's another one where I go,
never know.
you might be picking the top 10 if 2 injuries happen to
You
them.
never know.
So
Right, you never know.
Yeah.
Let's see. They've got the Raiders, which would, there would be. That's an interesting one because Devontae Adams is being traded by people every day.
Right. Even though he's come out and said, I
I'm
focusing.
here.
I'm focusing on being here.
He said the right things.
Yes,
right?
correct.
He said the right. He said, "Look, I'd be lying to you if I told you if I wanted to go somewhere, it would be to play with Rodgers again. It would be. However, that's not happening, and I'm happy to be here. And stop saying I'm not."
Sure.
Anyway, they've got the Raiders also sending a defensive end, Malcolm Kuntz, and a third-round pick for Aiyuk. And if I were to, make a, I would take the Atlanta one if these were real, And then what that would do for the Raiders is open up the opportunity to move Adams probably after this year.
Mm-hmm.
Problem for Aiyuk is, does he get paid there? Sure. Do they have a quarterback? No.
Right.
So I think that run, and I don't see why would the Raiders do that. They already have a prime receiver. They don't have a quarterback. This doesn't change much for them. So I don't think that that's a likely thing, and I don't see how even what they presented would be something that's attractive to the 49ers.
It is a Davis move, though.
Sure.
They make those
Sure,
weird
but
moves sometimes.
a third-round pick in Malcolm Kuntz, if I'm the 49ers, I'm not so hot on that.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
you'd have to make it a little more better to me. Here's one they put out there I thought was interesting. The Chargers, they're changing a lot of things. Keenan Allen's gone. Mike Williams is gone. They're making a lot of changes. I think they're going to run the ball a lot more now, I think is what's going to happen with them because that's Harbaugh. They're going to they want to get tough. They want to run the ball. They want to be hard-nosed. And honestly, if I'm them, I want to shorten games against the Chiefs too. And then give Herbert a shot in the fourth quarter, see what happens. Anyway, his offering, or at least what they're pushing out there that would be an offer is Joey Bosa and a fourth-round pick.
Okay.
Now, so that would pair the Bosa brothers. Mm-hmm. Joey Bosa also makes a ton of money.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Joey Bosa also has been hurt a lot.
Yep.
A lot. So would he be motivated to play for the Niners? Probably, with his brother. That'd be an interesting storyline. LeBron's got Bronny. Nick's got Joey. That'd be a heck of a California storyline.
Hurt often, and he's already 29. And that's just not a good combo.
I think. Well, that would be that's a dump by the Chargers.
Yeah.
I think that's we know he's good, but we just don't trust he's going to be out here a lot, and we're resetting. So let's just move on from him, and then they can go get Aiyuk and replace Allen and Williams, who aren't there anymore.
Right.
They did use a first-round pick on a receiver last year, and they did use an early second-round pick on Ladd McConkey. So it's not like the cupboard's bare, but it's not what it was. So I'd buy into this if the Niners like Joey Bosa, but that would be another humongous salary they're adding.
Yeah,
so I don't see that, but that feels a little not going to happen. But I'd wonder what Nick Bosa thought about that and what John Lynch thought about that.
I'd sweeten the pot by having them do a pick swap and then the players having escalating clauses.
Yes.
If Bosa gets X amount of sacks, that bumps up to a third or a second round pick.
I would almost put it just like, are you available? Game bonuses.
Sure. Yeah, you could do that too.
You just got to be available on Sunday because he hasn't been.
But I would
regularly.
also flip it to Aiyuk. If Aiyuk goes over 1,200 yards, pick jumps up to a second. All of a sudden, you kind of have competing clauses on both sides.
The Patriots that are looking for help, specifically at receiver.
Too.
Yeah, they called. So they put out, the writer for The Athletic for the Patriots said, send Matthew Judon in a second-round pick.
Okay.
That would be, in my opinion, for the Niners, hard to turn down also. One, their second-round pick's going to be high.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not going to be good.
That's true.
So their second-round pick is a low-end first-round pick, really. And Judon is a very, very good player. But again, you'd have to take on another very big salary. And him across from Bosa, I'd argue that's a heck of a pairing too, right there. That's a heck of a pairing.
Judon, it's worth noting, entering the last year of his contract, he does only make $6 million. His cap hit's $14 million. So it's a rental. So you're kind of doing a rental for a rental a little bit there. But you could, of course, go ahead and re-sign him if you like.
That's right. None of these picks, none of these deals offer the solution of how are you better as a receiving core.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
The Pittsburgh one that was put out there was edge rusher Alex Highsmith and tackle Dan Moore for Aiyuk and a sixth-round pick to address two issues that they have, which is future at tackle with Trent at some point, and an edge rusher again. Everyone seems to think the Niners would like to replace Eric Armstead and find somebody across from Bosa to help bolster their pass rush. So that's that one. I don't know. I'd have to know what the Niners think about those two players, Highsmith and Dan Moore. Do they think they're good enough and warrant doing something like this? And then there's the last one, which came from Ben, who wrote this. The Commanders should consider Terry McLaurin and a compensatory third-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk.
No. Reread that.
What? Oh, they want the third back with Aiyuk.
Yes. So it would be McLaurin
Aiyuk and the third for McLaurin.
Because you're trading a longer contract. You're getting 2 years of McLaurin,
2 years of
1 year of
McLaurin.
Ayuk, and then have to trade him have to
You
sign
got to
him on
pay
the
him.
other side.
Well, if
Yep.
you're going to do this, you're paying him immediately
Right.
because that's what he wants. It's
Correct.
why he's not playing right now.
Yep.
And they keep trading these compensatory picks with
Yeah,
one
yes,
another.
right. They're playing footsie with the
compensatory picks. So that's what his thing is, and this is what he says about it. Ayuk's connections with the Commanders. He played college football with first-round quarterback Jaden Daniels, and Washington GM Adam Peters was part of the front office that selected him 25th in the 2020 draft. And the receiver's thirsty social media post highlighting Daniels has kept the story afloat. The Commanders are not one player away from contention, especially not a heavily dependent receiver. Trading coveted future picks and using a significant portion of their ample salary cap for Aiyuk is the opposite of Peters' first-year actions. I agree. Washington has holes at 3 premium positions: tackle, edge rusher, and corner, plus McLaurin and a 2022 first-round pick at Jahan Dotson at receiver. That said, if Peters seeks a reunion for him and his young quarterback, the logical bait is the wildly popular, productive, and likely untradeable McLaurin. The 6-year receiver has 2 years remaining on a 3-year, $69 million extension that began in 23. The additional time is why San Francisco has to give up the future pick. Making Aiyuk one of the 5 highest paid receivers will lead McLaurin's camp wanting a raise next year when the contract no longer includes guaranteed money. And at 29, McLaurin is roughly 2.5 years older than Aiyuk. I hear his logic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, how does this team get better in the short term by doing this? I think you're trading an extremely productive receiver for another extremely productive receiver. So I call that a wash.
Mm-hmm.
You are paying McLaurin less than you're going to pay Aiyuk.
Yep.
I guess you are getting this 3rd-round pick under this type of scenario, so that is an incentive for sure. That's an incentive. And I said this all along. I do not downplay the relationship with him and Daniels. I think that is a big deal. I also think that this team is repurposing itself. They need leaders in the locker room. Aiyuk has not branded himself a leader in the way that he's acting, and I know what Terry is. So I am more inclined to stand pat and not trade him. And I would wonder how the fan base would react to something like that, because he's beloved for good reason. And while this may make sense on some of the ways that Ben described, I don't disagree with him. I do think somebody who's been being very wonky about getting out of a really good situation to make his money now, to play on a team that probably isn't contending when he's on a team that was just in the Super Bowl, to give up your captain who's extraordinarily well liked to do that, feels a little Hard Knocks Giants with Saquon, honestly. It does.
Yeah, I know. I'd
So
agree.
I hear the merit of offering something like this, and I wouldn't endorse this at all. Like I don't think the difference between Aiyuk and McLaurin is so great that you have to do something like this. And I would just stick with what you got, which is, I don't think this is going to happen anyway, but I wouldn't move McLaurin for him.
This is, once again, a two-pronged answer. One, everyone needs to take a step back. The 49ers don't want to trade him, which means you'll have a shot at him next year. And why I think that's important, though, is because what I've been saying this whole offseason is not only with McLaurin, but with Dotson as well. Last year was a wash for everybody. The offense was a mess, right? The Eric Bieniemy offense was a mess for every single player, from the offensive line to the quarterback to the wide receivers to everybody. And I think you owe it. I know this is not how it works, and this is why I'm not a GM in the NFL. You owe it to McLaurin to finally play with a legitimate quarterback 100%. Because he's been quarterback-proof the entire time here.
He also, I would also hear this out a little bit if I thought his production was going the wrong way.
Right. Yeah.
I actually don't see that.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
And he showed up in camp like ready to show them that I'm still that guy. And, again, like when I thought maybe Justin Jefferson was available, like it's hard not to hear out all scenarios for someone like that because I think he's a massive difference maker. I think Aiyuk is a really good player, but he's not that. I think you're trading one really good receiver for another really good receiver, paying that other receiver more money, and you're only doing it because he has a relationship with the quarterback that, oh, by the way, they haven't played together in 5 years.
That's right. Yep.
So, I get they're best friends and everything, but I wouldn't do something like that. I'll hear out, you've got to put scenarios out there, and that's all Ben's doing, but I wouldn't do that if I were them. And I'd be more inclined to just trade a pick and bring him in and pair him with McLaurin. I would way prefer that.
Yep.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Here with Casey Kruger. First off, congratulations, you're going back to Paris. Mm-hmm. So that must be an incredible experience to go represent the United States again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a huge honor. It's hard to describe the feelings, but it's a dream, and I am just so excited to get there and to help the team be as successful as possible.
When was the first time you played internationally for the United States?
Oh gosh, that was back in 2016. Yeah. That was my first cap after the 2016 season. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how long it's been already at this point, but it doesn't get old. It's not something I take lightly ever. And so how do you think about it this time? There's 8 years later. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of experience with this now. Can you go back to 2016 and remember what it was like to do it the first time to now where you're a veteran on our international team? Yeah, it's an interesting, feeling because it's technically my first, major tournament roster that I've made. So I kind of feel like a newbie in that sense. But at the same time, I've been playing with them since 2016. So I'm technically kind of a veteran as well. So I'm just kind of figuring out my role a little bit and what I can bring. But I can instantly go back to that feeling and remember how I felt when I first put on the crest. And I think it's going to be a similar feeling this time as well. And
it's something you don't take for granted, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's something that, it gives you that feeling every single time. I just feel so blessed every time I get an opportunity to wear that crest.
So you made a change in the NWSL. You changed teams. You got a new coach. You got a new coach with the women's national team, too. So can you kind of share with us how the team is thinking about performing in Paris this summer?
Yeah, it's kind of a similar dynamic with club as well as with the national team, how we kind of got new coaches in the same way. But so last camp was her first camp, and there's a lot of new information, a lot going on. But I think the group is just so hungry to learn and so hungry to apply, the tactical things that she's wanting, but also still bringing, the culture that made us successful in the past as well.
I think I talked to you a few weeks ago when you did the camp, and now that it's happening and you're there and you're heading there, I think we kind of talked about how the world has caught up a little bit to the United States, that this country was the dominant force in women's soccer for years, and the competition's very different now. So how do you think about the landscape of competing against the world?
Yeah, it's no secret that the world has definitely caught up and maybe even surpassed us, as we saw. And that's just something, we're owning it, but we're hungry. We're hungry to close that gap. We're hungry to get back to where we were. But every single game is going to be a test. It's going to be a test in a different way. And it's good for us. It's going to help the team evolve and get back to where we used to be.
You have an interesting kind of viewpoint here. 2 of the rookies on this team are going to be alternates because they've had such an incredible start to their careers here. The future of the U.S. women's soccer team seems to reside somewhat on this roster here in Washington with Croy and Hal and, of course, Trinity. So it's an interesting dynamic that you're watching kind of take place.
It's honestly, it's really cool to be a part of, and I'm so thankful, to be playing with them here and just watching their growth. But my goodness, I'm so happy to see them rewarded for their outstanding play this season. But I mean, I just look at them. They don't play like rookies at all. They play, well beyond their years. They're playing like veterans already. And the future of the national team, in very good hands.
Yeah. And with Trinity specifically, what do you see from her? This is your first year working with her. She clearly is a dynamic star of the sport. In working with her day to day, what have you learned about her?
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to be her teammate, both on and off the field, and just to see, what makes her special. It's easy to see that she's dynamic and all these things, but she brings, so much more. Her soccer IQ is incredible, and I wish more people could see that day to day. But
what do you mean by that? What do you see?
Just tactically, just constantly reading, where the space is, how can we exploit things, how can we fix this problem? Just constantly, she's got a soccer brain, and I think that's another piece that makes her special. Obviously, she's got a lot of physical gifts as well.
Yeah.
She's incredibly fast, incredible finisher.
Strong.
Incredibly strong, all these things.
Yeah.
But also, leadership qualities as well. That's something that it's been really cool to see her step up as a leader.
And how about Croy? She seems, ahead of the curve, considering what she's doing right now.
Yeah, Croy is exceptional. There's no other word to describe her. Just exceptional, just seeing her from day one and her growth, just in the past few months. But my gosh, like she has no limit. She's truly one of a kind, and she's just getting started, which is really cool.
All right, let me ask you a couple things about the Spirit. We are taping this before your last match against Bay FC before the break. So without knowing, obviously, what that result's going to be, how do you kind of see how the team has performed here so far through the first half of the season?
Yeah, I think we've maybe done a little bit better than people thought we were going to, and I think that's pretty cool, but I think it's a huge credit to the coaching staff and the system that they want to play and just breaking things down for us week after week and constantly pushing the standards. So I think that's been, really, really great. I think the group has been very eager to learn and has just been improving week after week, which has been really great. And we've been rewarded for it with great results. However, we're only halfway through and we still have some room to grow.
And a new coach and now another new coach, albeit on the same team, and I would assume preaching the similar disciplines that you guys have started here. How do you think through coming back from a break and there will be a new lead voice in the room?
Yeah, they've kind of already addressed that a little bit with starting the transition now and having Jonah kind of help out and start his role now so that, we can really hit the floor running after the break. But he's already, from day one, has made us better, just pointing out little things, and his role is bigger and bigger. And I'm just really excited for him to. So
you're already seeing the signs of why he was so successful.
Absolutely.
Where he was, yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing he said was, the first pointer he gave us out on the field, helped us instantly. It was about when teams are pressing us and how to kind of break that down. But yeah, I mean, it's clear since day one, why he's such, one of the best coaches in the world, right? So I think he's just going to take this team to new heights as well. Okay,
last thing. We started with the Olympics. Let's end with it. Do you have a key for success for the United States as they go to Paris to take on the world?
Ooh, that key for success. I think just, not riding the highs or lows, just kind of staying grounded. There might be some adversity, but just sticking to the game plan, trusting the tactics, trusting, the game plan, I think.
Let's see you in a gold medal. That would look nice.
That would be beautiful. Caleb would be very happy about that.
Casey, thank you so much. Good luck in Paris, and we'll see you when you get back for the second half of the Spirit season.
Thank you so much.
All right, it's Casey Kruger, and we'll take a quick break. Bram Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Let's go back to what we were talking about earlier with the Commanders, in that, if things go really well, and Jaden Daniels has a great rookie season, and this team kind of gets it together, considering how many new parts there are, maybe they're better than people think they are. Maybe they're contending for a playoff spot. Maybe if the Eagles go completely sideways again, they're more than that.
Sure.
But it seems to me on paper, no offense to the Commanders, I love them. That roster Philadelphia has looks a little too big to fail.
They will win on the command tangibles side every week.
That's right. I'll check off all the boxes. I am hoping that next year, not this year, because I need to see them play first, that I get to literally say we do have the best quarterback in the division. I'm hoping that's the case. Okay. And there's a path to that because Dak may or may not be in Dallas after this year.
That's right.
Jalen Hurts, you listen to all the criticism of him. We'll get to this in a second. Some people do not think he's a top 10 quarterback anymore, as listed on those lists by the top 10 lists that we talked about the other day. And then I'm going to get to this part. And then no one believes Daniel Jones is. Even the Giants, who said it on Hard Knocks out loud. Yes. That they are, I liked how you put it. Their front office is sports radio.
Yeah, correct.
I can't believe it.
Yep.
But they are. At least that's how it's presented.
Yes.
That they are having the same conversations we are. There's no nuance to it.
That's right.
Let's see if he's good. If he's not, we got to change him out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. Let's ask John Mara about it.
Right.
What do you think, John? I like Saquon. Well, we don't like him at $12 million, do you? That's what's going on up there.
Yes.
Big bog.
As I told you, the lack of stats thrown around in these conversations was guys, is anyone going to come in with the numbers? Because I'd like to see them.
Yeah. Do you guys use analytics?
Right.
If you do, is HBO just not showing us that?
It was actually more funny, too, of watching the guys squirm when they were like, if we get rid of Saquon, what's our identity going to be? What are we doing if he's gone?
Listen, man, I hope we're saying this. I don't, it's not implausible, but it depends on how Jaden plays, obviously. But, next year at this time, could we be saying that the best quarterback in the division plays on this team? It's not completely
there's a
irrational
percent
to think
chance,
about.
yes.
There's a percent chance of that.
Yeah.
I don't know where Dak's going to be after this year. He
Correct.
may be back there. He may not. Like, look, they're a trading camp. They didn't sign him to an extension yet.
At this time next year, he might have a new head coach, which would mean another offensive coordinator. So
he may not be there.
that's right.
I think if they change head coaches, I think they probably go, let's move on.
You'd think so, but you don't know, Jera.
Never know.
Right.
Never know. Anyway, on the Eagles.
Yeah.
Well. So this is not totally a surprise here because it went so sideways last year, and we never got a full explanation from anybody.
It's actually one of the things I'm shocked didn't happen because Roseman tends to just address whatever went wrong, and he didn't.
He didn't. And Jason Kelsey retired and coulda.
Right.
He's got a very popular podcast.
That's right.
And that would have been a heavily downloaded episode had he gone through, Travis, let me tell you what happened last year.
Right.
And actually went through it, but, he's a team guy. He's not going to do it. He's not going to reveal it.
That podcast isn't in need of clicks these days.
No.
So he's also like, I don't need to burn any bridges in Philly.
And he is Go Birds. He likes to pull down his lower lip and show you the tattoo. Go Birds.
I mean, have you seen his latest sponsorship?
He's not going to burn those bridges.
Right. Have you seen his latest sponsorship too with how much Go Birds he is?
Mm-mm.
He and his wife's name, who's escaping me now, Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
They're Wawa sponsors now.
Yeah, they are.
Just like
sounds about right.
Of course you guys.
Of course you guys are.
Match made in heaven.
Of course you guys are.
Right. So he's no need for him to actually reveal anything.
So this is interesting. So we want to play Rossini?
Yep.
What was she on? I think she's on her podcast.
This is called Scoop City. I don't know if that's her podcast. I do think
with
it's under
Chase Daniel.
Yeah, I do think that is under the Athletic umbrella. I think so.
Probably. I mean, she's like the lead NFL.
So,
insider there.
Right.
Okay. So here she was talking about Jalen Hurts and the relationship with Nick Sirianni and the team.
It's a relationship that's a work in progress, right? So last year, there was some disconnect, right, between them in their personalities.
Were they not on the same page the entire year? Because I want to stop you because that's what you just said is important to the conversation because they started 10-1. Everything was all rosy. You never heard about their relationship. All of a sudden, they finished really, really bad.
Those 10 wins were a grind from what I was told. Every win felt like a really big feat for them because of the challenges that they were facing in terms of what they were doing on offense. It was Nick Sirianni's show.
100%.
It was all Nick.
Yep.
Play call, everything you saw on that field was Sirianni.
Oh, okay. So here's the good news with this. Number one, this is the secondary part of it, but we could be a beneficiary of this. They fired Brian Johnson and threw him under the bus as the offensive coordinator where things were going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who hired him?
Right.
He's working underneath Cliff Kingsbury here. And what they're putting out, or what she's putting out there is the actual real problem was not him. It was the head coach who determined his offense needed to be run over Brian Johnson's. Uh-oh.
Right.
Uh-oh. This is what she went on to say that you don't hear in this clip. From just talking to some of the guys in the locker room, Brian Johnson really leaned into making sure Nick was getting what Nick wanted. So what you saw last year wasn't reflective of what Brian Johnson wanted and what he wanted to do with the offense. It was Nick Sirianni. And Johnson took the high road, didn't say a word about it.
Johnson was the fall guy.
Kellen Moore was hired. Kellen Moore, I'm sure, was promised, you're running the offense.
Right.
Nick, this is what we've been saying this all along. What's Nick Sirianni's job? If he's not running the offense, he's clearly not running the defense because they brought in Vic Fangio. What's he doing, actually?
Right.
Like, if he's not, and not that, like, the head coach has to be the coordinator. They don't. But, like, if you're telling me Dan Quinn has no input in Joe Witt's defense, what exactly is he doing other than just talking to us and maintaining the media relationship and maintaining the outward voice of the team? He's not. Of course, he's day-to-day in it. Sirianni's an offensive coach, so obviously he's day-to-day in it. But they're saying, or what she's saying, is it's a relationship problem between him and Hurts outside of just the fact that on the field there was obviously some issues. And it started really early. Remember?
Yep.
They were winning, and A.J. Brown was freaking out.
That's right. Yeah. I reference it all the time.
And we're like, what are you mad about?
You're leading the league in yards and receptions and touchdowns.
Right.
For however long you did. I think through the first 5-8 weeks, something like that? Yeah.
He was on track to be the MVP. I remember talking about it. I'm like, this guy might be the best receiver in the NFL this year. And he's on track to be, because he's their MVP and they're undefeated. So, like, they're on track for this. And he's throwing fits. They're winning. He's getting the ball, and he's throwing fits.
And literally winning the games that he's throwing fits in. Like, they're up by a touchdown or two.
Winning. They win the game, and he's still mad. Mad. And you know what? Like, look what happened. He didn't leave. They re-signed him.
They re-signed him. Yeah, sure.
And why? Because they turned the offense over to somebody else.
Yeah.
So his fits were, as he liked to put it, I'm doing this for the team, not for me.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong here. I'm not being the malcontent receiver that you want to. I'm not T.O.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not being the malcontent receiver. I'm telling you, we got a systemic problem here. And as it turns out, if you listen to that, and obviously since we haven't gotten what the problem is, maybe that's what it is. We don't know what happened last year because the problem's still there.
What's you got?
That's what she's saying.
You got to pull up the odds there. What's the Sirianni odds that he gets fired? No, that. Oh, that was the first coach fired, right? Wasn't that what you were referencing yesterday? Remember? Was that the first coach?
First coach fired. Robert Saleh was number one on the list, but Sirianni was pretty close. And it's set up for if for some reason they're 1-2.
Right. I was going to say
there's going to be a lot of heat.
First half.
If they're 1-3, there's going to be it's going to be blazing hot.
It's your boy.
Oh man.
Bram Sirianni over there.
I'm going to have Kincaid on for an hour if they're 1-3. He will go scorched earth. He'll be calling Sirianni Biden. He'll be like, you got to go, buddy. You got to go.
Like a Biden.
You got to go, man. It's over. So now I think we've solved the mystery here. The reason why we don't know what happened last year is because the problem is still there. He's just been neutered in his responsibilities. So I would ask Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, I think a better question now is, if this is all adding up to that's what the issue is, why didn't you change that?
Right. I mean,
you're not changing Hurts. You did change the coordinators again. You clearly have empowered the coordinators to run their shops. So why are you in belief that Sirianni's the right guy to be the head coach if what's dribbling out right now is he actually was the problem with the offense and he was the issue with why things went sideways? And nobody's saying it, right? To my point about Jason Kelce didn't talk about it. Well, one, he's a team guy. But two, the problem's still there. And if he outs it, it's a defection against the team, and he can't do it.
What I would say, though, and they're keeping a level head here, though, is all these problems happened, and they still won 10 games. That is the flip side of that. Like, I don't think that should be discounted either.
This is what I say about Dallas, too. When you guys complain so much about it, like, they won 12 games.
That's right.
We'd kill people to win 12 games around here.
That's right.
And you guys you're taking that for granted down there, that they went 12-5, and I know they flamed out of the playoffs, but they went 12-5. We'd be practically throwing a parade. What do you think people would do around here if they were like 11-4?
Burgundy and gold in the streets.
Oh, my God. We turn into the bing bongs on that one.
I wonder if a sports book would let me parlay, not first coach fired, but parlay Sirianni, McCarthy, and Dayball all getting fired. Because imagine if the Commanders are good, somebody's head's going to roll. Because they're going to beat some people they shouldn't beat. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine if Dan Quinn becomes the longest tenured coach next year in the NFC East?
I think McCarthy, I don't think they have the same team that they had.
No.
And
they keep taking away from that team.
They keep taking away from it. And so when that goes, not as well.
Yeah, right.
Like, I believe they're not going to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. But, like, they probably won't be as good. So 12 is that's aspirational number this time.
They
with the
feel
group
like
that they
10,
have.
11 wins with the Eagles, except they're actually going to.
Let me tell you something. If they get to 12 again, McCarthy's coach of the year.
I would agree with you actually on that.
If that actually happens,
I agree.
So I'm assuming they revert back a little bit. But Jerry's guess is it's 9 or 10, not 7.
Right.
That's his guess. That's his hope. That's his hope is what happens here. So, but if it is 7, he's going to be gone, whether he deserves it or not.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Sirianni, this is it. Because they're going to run out of excuses. I'd like to know how he survived this. That's what I'd like to know, is how he survived this. And then I like Dayball, but who knows what the ownership's going to do if the Giants are really bad. Mm-hmm. Like, and they may or may not be, but like if they're a 5-win team, does Mara start to, especially after this Hard Knocks where I'm looking at the front office going, I'm not sure I understand your plan here. Does Mara come around to, We got rid of Saquon.
Yep.
You know, we did all these things. We gave Jones the money. You told me to give him the money, and we're just as bad as we were. We don't feel like we're going anywhere. Like, how long am I going to stick this one out?
Right.
And if he's going to clean house, I think Daboll should get a job, the next somewhere else immediately.
Of course.
He just
I
comes
agree.
off to me that way.
I agree, actually. I think Hard Knocks has actually done a great job,
Good job for him.
with no matter what happens.
I mean, all these scenarios, like Quinn's a safe one here. He's got the
Yes.
runway. All of them are all sitting on icy territory. But Sirianni's is curious. And this is the part I think that it's the one thing that doesn't make any sense, really, that he kept his job, because more and more and more you're just hearing that he was the problem. Now, will he change, or what? Has just being neutered out of like having day-to-day control of certain aspects of the team. But if you're doing that to the head coach, what's his job?
Right. Well, and also I would say this, his pressures differently. Like, remember you and I were doing everything's fine with the Eagles, but remember their fan base was freaking out and we didn't quite get it. And then we watched them and it was like, oh.
Well, I do remember at the beginning of the year, I kept going, they're lucky they have the record they have. I'm like,
yes.
I don't want to take anything away from them because they're winning,
Right.
and that's hard to do. They're winning, but it didn't look right. It never looked right.
But their fan base was so overreactive. Even you and I were like, it's the NFL. It's hard to win in the NFL.
Guys, you're 7-1. Chill out.
But respect to the Eagles fan base. They're like us. They know football. And they were showing up to the team facility that Monday morning, remember? Like
run the
protesting.
Ball. Run the ball. They're telling them to run the ball.
And then at the end of the year, I was like, you know what? You guys were right. I will say you knew your team better than we did, and that happens when we talk about
make fun of them a lot.
Yeah.
They have an interesting sect of that fan base.
Right.
It's a little crazy.
Right.
But they do know what they're looking at.
So what I'm saying here is if Jalen Hurts comes out and throws like Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy's offense, they're going to freak out the first month of the season, and all of a sudden the pressure on him is going to be completely different.
The other thing, too, and I'll just say this about him, and she referenced this. Diana said this. It's a relationship that's a work in progress. So last year there was some disconnect between them in their personalities. Nick, we've seen very emotional guy. Jalen, very private guy. They're different human beings, which is fine, and that's okay. You don't all have to be the same, but you do have to be on the same page. And I said this about Sirianni a couple of years ago when they went on that run and got to the Super Bowl. I'm like, that personality is something. Like, he's sitting there staring into the camera and, making these faces at people and acting like he's got all the answers. And in the NFL,
he's a little show buddy.
And in the NFL, you get humbled fast.
Is that when your friend told you
fast.
that you looked like him?
I got so mad. I do not look like him. He is not a good-looking man. I do not look like him. No offense.
That far.
I don't look like him.
He's not Daboll.
No, Daboll looks better than him now. Daboll lost all that weight. Daboll's
That's a hot take.
McCarthy's not a good-looking man. Okay.
McCarthy's not good looking.
But
that, yes.
I don't look like Nick Sirianni. Don't tell me I do.
Best looking head coach in the NFC East. Call in.
Yeah. 301-230.
No, wrong station.
Yeah.
We don't do calls here.
That's right. Yeah. Put out that number. Hopefully they call Craig. Hey, I'm calling about best looking coach in the NFC East.
That's a good Radio Wars bit.
Who's the best looking coach?
No. Call in to the other station on the topic that we want you to talk about.
Yeah. Call in on there and tell them you want to talk about that. Just get on the line and say I think Brian Daboll's the best looking
people
coach
start calling.
in the NFC East. And then he's like, what? He hangs up. And then the next person says, I think that person's wrong. It's Sirianni.
That's what Sheehan should have done.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
That would have been funny. Sorry.
So the personality stuff, and I'm with her on this. Like, not everybody's the same personality, like obviously, and that's fine. I agree. Like, that's fine. But when it's not going well, if you are someone like Hurts who seems very to himself, not outwardly leadership. Remember when they started losing, everyone was getting him on that.
Yes.
Oh, you don't look happy. Oh,
Correct.
You're not like. Are you speaking up when you have to?
You're
and
not
Hurts was
rallying
like,
the troops. Yeah.
Guys, I was in the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
Like, chill out for a minute here. Like, I don't know why you have to question this. But then Sirianni is the way that he is. You could see it's oil and water. You could see it.
Well, and I think Hurts, too. I mean this in a good way with Hurts. Hurts seems to be a little Brad-like in terms of being a leader. Like, he doesn't feel the need to be the guy to rah-rah anybody. Like, Kelsey was probably the leader of the offense, right? Like, he's the one that we would see him screaming on the sidelines, but that's any game for Kelsey, right? I don't think Hurts felt the need to do that. Now he might have to, though, with no Kelsey. I mean, maybe it's, some of those other linemen that step up and do that, but I'm kind of looking at Hurts going, maybe he doesn't have to because there are some other veterans on this team that he kind of defers to, and I don't blame him on that, but
A.J. Brown's loud, too.
Right.
He was the first one to show you.
Correct.
And he's getting redeemed here because he's basically like, I told you last year, this is why I was doing it. It was not to be a diva. You guys always want to paint really good receivers as divas. It wasn't. I was trying to tell you we're not doing it right.
Yeah,
and he's getting redeemed here now.
Brown was doing that. I'm not the crazy one, guys.
Yeah, I'm not the crazy one.
We're going, yeah, you're a little crazy.
But they're all, I will give them this. None of them would give up the goods about what was really going on. They did. They couldn't help themselves. It got out, and then the results were the results.
Yeah.
But they never outed whatever the real problem was. And more, it seems like it is the head coach.
Yeah.
And they got it. They're going to regret. If they lose the division, he's going to get fired because they should win it.
I think I think now, looking at this, I think he's already on the hot seat now.
Probably. They have two people that could be the interim head coach.
And they have too good of a team. They could turn it around.
That's the point. If it got to the end of the year and they don't win the division to whoever, he'll get fired.
Yeah,
they're too good. And if they start really bad, there's going to be a loud chorus, especially if their offense is run into the ground a little bit because they kind of have no excuses. They have Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and Dallas Goedert. How in the world are they bad?
Ugh, they have such a good first half. I think he's not getting fired halfway through.
Unless they lose games you don't think they're going to lose. Think about, I remember early in the year, they barely beat the Patriots. Barely.
Right.
And at the time, I was just kind of, because you don't know what you don't know. As it turned out, the Patriots were a bad team last year. And it got very evident. And the Eagles should have killed a team like that. But they didn't. You want
to hear their schedule? Just to see what the pressure is going to be like? Of course, they open in Brazil against the Packers.
That could go either way.
I think that's one that no one is going to really judge
unless the score's ugly.
Right.
But I agree. You're playing in Brazil against a good team.
Correct.
Anything could happen there.
Don't care on that one.
Right.
Then they host the Falcons.
They could lose.
It looks like a Monday night game. 8:15. Then they go at Saints. Should be a win, but
it's at
the Saints.
But it's at
the Bucks.
You're telling me that's easy? The Buccaneers, the Packers, and who was the third one?
They
have two
Packers, Falcons, Saints, and then the Buccaneers.
Three of them are essentially on the road.
Yeah.
Okay. Two of those teams are playoff teams.
Maybe I shouldn't have.
The Buccaneers were in the playoffs last year.
Then they host the Browns.
That's another playoff team.
Then they go at Eagles.
At
Giants. At Giants. My bad.
That's the easiest game at that point, really, of all those teams, in my opinion. Saints at home would be one thing. Saints on the road's a different story down there with those guys.
I rescind what I said because then they go at Bengals, host the Jags, at Cowboys.
Yeah. Here's the problem. If they have a middling to bad record early, they're going to fire him.
And then
they are.
We can pinpoint this. They do at Bengals, host the Jags, at the Cowboys, then turn around on Thursday night and play the Commanders.
Oh.
And that could be where things are getting real hot. And because you don't want to fire the head coach on the short week.
It's not on the short week. But if we... You know what happens when people lose to us.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
You get fired.
See, that's what I'm saying. If the Commanders are good enough, they're going to get them all fired.
That'll be... Let me tell you something. One of the big changes for this organization will be when other teams don't freak out when they lose to us.
Yes, correct.
How many examples have we had in recent years
coordinators
where a team loses to them and they lose their cookies?
That's right. Yeah.
They fire people. They go nuts. They should not lose.
Rob Ryan.
Things will be different when we finally get hey, that's a good team we played over there. We lost them, whatever. That's a good team over there. When we get that one, that'll be nice.
Huh. Okay.
He's in trouble.
Oh, man, if he's teetering on the edge. If he's teetering on the edge and then they lose that Thursday night game, then they get 10 days with whoever the new head coach is because it's a Thursday night game. I'm predicting.
What week is that?
That is week. I got to count them out for you. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So it's a little over halfway through the season.
Right.
So if they're hovering around 500 and they lose that game, and it's like the playoffs are on the line, they're going to make the change.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Especially if we beat them bad somehow. Somehow goes crazy.
Where's their bye? They must have their bye early this year. Yeah, they do. They have their bye early on.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Ooh.
Good luck up there.
Ooh.
It's my one glimmer of hope because I look at their roster and I go, They're too good.
Right.
They're just too good.
Now, all of a sudden, too, what this does as well is it redeems Johnson coming here. Instead of just being like, oh, yeah, you fell out of favor up there. Now come rehab yourself. No, it's actually like, okay, do I get to do what I want here?
No, remember the whole storyline was like Hurts loves him.
Right, but like you don't know until some of the other things fall in line.
You don't know, but like nobody was like, that's Natty Hacks. Nobody did that.
Right.
Go look what happened to the Jets the second Rodgers got hurt. That offense went sideways.
Right.
Sideways.
Yeah.